Welcome to the Collide Kids podcast, hosted by Christen Clark. This is a show for kids and families. You are going to meet new people and have fun while you listen. Let's do it!
Hey y'all, welcome to the Collide Kids podcast. I'm your host, Christen Clark. The Collide Kids podcast is a show for kids and families where we learn together how life and faith collide. I am so glad that you are listening today. Thank you so much for being here and checking this out, especially if this is your first time listening. I hope you really enjoy today and you keep coming back for more. Don't forget to listen to the end of every episode. That's where we have the kids only segment where kids just like you get to be on the podcast too. All right, I need you guys to pay attention. I need your help. I am about to hit 100 episodes, which is amazing. It's almost like a birthday in the podcast world. It's a pretty big deal if you hit 100 episodes. And so if you are thinking about getting a gift, that's what you do for birthdays. The best gift you can give a podcaster like me is support. Now, I know I usually say all this stuff at the end, but things like leaving a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast app of choice, or sharing the Collide Kids podcast post on your social media, or asking friends to listen to your favorite episode. You could also head over to my website, collidekidspodcast.com, and click the link that says support. All of that would mean so much to me, but I don't want to just receive all the gifts. I want to give some too. So if you leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, or you share something about the podcast on your social media, you would have to make sure to tag Collide Kids Podcast for that to count. But you will be in the running for a special giveaway in honor of the 100th episode. Sounds fun, right? I thought so too. So if you're interested in being a part of the giveaway, all you have to do is leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, or share something about the podcast on your social media. It's that easy. Well, I'm so glad you guys are listening today. I'm excited to introduce you to my guest. His name is Dave Connis. He is a former librarian and the author of The Inventions of God and Eva and several young adult novels, including The Temptation of Adam and Suggested Reading. He has a new children's book that just came out called The Stories of God and Kiki, which celebrates writers of all ages and God, who is the author of all our stories. Dave lives in Georgia with his wife and 3 kids and a dog that barks at non-existent threats. I had such a fun time talking and laughing with Dave, and I am sure you are going to have fun as well. Here is my conversation with Dave Connis. I feel like if we keep talking without recording, we're going to miss good stuff because this is already so fun. Dave, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. And I'm glad our mutual friend, Michelle Amireas, requested that you be on this show because she's a big fan of yours. How do you know Michelle?
Michelle, you're too kind of a human to interact with me. I met her on Instagram. Actually, the world tells you not to eat strangers or meet them on the internet, but I have met some very kind people and Michelle was one of them. And we were introduced by a friend, and she's just a wonderful person. And my life has been made better by her existence. So as evidenced by the fact that I'm here.
Well, there you go. I love that. Well,
so don't eat people that you meet on the internet, and
we're starting out strong.
Yes, we're just going straight for the good advice, I think. Yeah.
Will you just introduce yourself to our listeners today? Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yes. So I am a man named Dave Connis, and I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is a really funny word to say. I say it silently to myself every once in a while just to make myself laugh. And I actually work. I'm a writer part-time, so I write kids' books. Some of those are for older tiny humans, and some of them are for younger tiny humans. My most recent one is for younger tiny humans, but I also work. I'm a full-time writer of stuff that you see in like the buttons in apps, and I do product design, and I do that remotely. So that's why I'm sitting in my bedroom.
Very cool.
Yep.
That sounds fun. I like that. I like both those jobs. Those sound like fun jobs. Yeah. Okay. So before we get started, I want to hear all about your books and also about all the things you want to share with us today. But this is a podcast for kids, so we always like to start out with a joke or something funny. So do you have a joke for us today?
I do. I actually have a list, and I'm going to go through them real fast. So
Okay.
the pickups are going to happen fast.
I'll try not to snort in between so it doesn't
All right.
throw it off. Okay.
All right. We ready?
Yes.
All right. What do you call a thing that's brown and looks like a stick?
I don't know. Oh, it's a stick. Okay.
What do you call a boomerang that won't come back?
Is that a stick?
It's also a stick. What do you call a bug that looks like a stick?
I don't know.
A stick bug. What do you call a dragon that looks like a stick? A stick dragon. What do you call a sticker that looks like a stick? A stick sticker. What do you call a lot of joke about sticks?
I don't know.
Annoying. When you wear a belt made out of $100 bills, it's a waste of money. I don't trust stairs. They're always up to something. My son asked if I've seen the dog bowl, and I said, I never knew he did.
The bowls.
A man tried to sell me a coffin. It's the last thing I need. Did you hear about the restaurant on the moon? It's got great food. It's just no atmosphere.
Nice.
And why can't Elsa from Frozen have a balloon?
She'll let it go.
She'll let it go.
I knew that one. Yes. Yeah. I got one.
Good job.
Thank you. That was great. Those are all really good. There's certain kids that listen to this show that love the joke part. I mean, I think a lot of kids like them, but some of them, they're like fiercely writing them down right now. So
I gotta remember this.
You're like, I gotta know this one.
Yeah.
That's good. That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing those. Those were really good. So let's talk a little bit about writing. How did you get into writing? What started you off being an author?
It's gonna be a weird statement, but it was actually video games.
Oh.
Yes. I actually have a long thing about how video games are actually really good for creativity. And every time I talk about it to kids, they're always like, see, you need to come talk to my parents. But it's true. Like there was a few video games that I played a lot when I was 8 and 10 that just sparked my love for story and sparked my love for worlds. And it made me want to write. And I did. I wrote fan fiction basically. And then I remember writing a fan fiction for X-Men. And I was writing myself into the story, course, nice. Because I was super cool. And from there, I just kind of kept at it. I always loved to read. So I would go read and then I'd be inspired. And then right out of college, I hadn't read any of the Harry Potter books until the senior year of college. So when I started reading them, and I read all of them when I was supposed to be doing my senior project. And I was just like, I don't want to do that. I want to read the Harry Potter books. And I finished them in like 4 months. It was pretty intense how quickly I finished them. And then I was super sad for like at least a month that I was done. And I was like, well, I should write a book. I haven't written in a while. So maybe I'll like ease my sadness if I write a book. So I wrote a book. And then I was sitting there after I finished it. I was like, well, now what? What do I do now? And that kind of kicked off my journey towards getting a book published. And that was shooey. Again, what is time? I'm not sure. I think that was in 20,000. I'm just on fire today. Don't Eat Strangers, 20,011. 2011. So it's been 11 years. Nope, 12 years. Is that right?
11. I think you're right. Years. 11. Yep. I'm with you.
I'm a writer. Obviously. I don't.
Right. Yeah. You can't be good at everything. It's okay.
You can't have it all. You can't have it all. So yeah. And now I've released this, the book that is the most recent. It's been my 4th book. So, and hopefully there'll be more. We'll see.
That's awesome. So you have a new book out. It just came out this summer called Stories of God and Kiki. And I want to hear about this book, but first tell me, what are the names of the books you've had published so far?
Yeah. So the first one, it's a young adult novel, and that one's name is The Temptation of Adam. And then the second one was another young adult, and that one's Suggested Reading, which I just don't think I can ever come up with a title that is going to be as good as Suggested Reading. So it's all downhill from here. And then the first picture book that came out last year is the Inventions of God and Eva. And then the second one, which it just came out, is The Stories of God and Kiki. So
those sound awesome. I love all the titles.
That I didn't mess those up. because I consistently like switch out the stories of God and Eva. Nope, it's not true.
You got it. You nailed it. That was good. Tell us about the stories of God and Kiki. What is that about?
Yes. So it is about a little girl named Kiki who likes writing stories, creative stories. She has a character that she calls Prince Tybee. He's an otter, a prince otter, and he goes around this made-up world that she creates and does random things. And then, in the book, it asks the question, well, where does this creativity come from? Well, and then we talk about God, and we talk about how God likes to write stories, and God writes, the most important stories. And he knows that what every story needs, unlike sometimes Kiki forgets to put things in his stories. So it's talking about what it means to be a creative writer in light of the fact that we're made to be like God. So, and it kind of compares and contrasts the two.
That's really cool. I like that. What was it about that idea like that made you want to write something about this? How did you get inspired to write a book like this?
So I've always liked writing creative stories. And I think I've always heard too that God gives you gifts. Like he is somebody who gives out gifts, and that you can be good at things, and he's made you good at these things. And it's always felt strange sometimes when I'm writing stories about like dragons to think of like, well, okay, well, God gave me a gift. How is me writing a story about a dragon a gift? Like how? And I think I wanted to explore that and to understand what it means to have the gifts of just coming up with princes that are otters, and how God loves that and delights in that, and how it's not just God delighting in that, but it's also being like God, who is an author, the author, capitalized. So it was something I wanted to explore, and something that I wanted to offer to my own kids as they find loves and stories and books and things like that.
Yeah, I love that concept of thinking about how God delights in who we are, how he created us. He delights in things like you said about princes who are otters and things like that. Speaking of, I have an otter. I have a pond next to my house, and we have an otter that visits us like a couple times a month. Otters are so fun. I don't know if you have ever seen an otter before outside of your book.
I am burning with jealousy right now, like burning. I think I have a sunburn. Otters are my favorite animals. Hence why Otter is the main character for Kiki. I'm not going to say that you should name this otter Prince Tybee, but you should.
Well, we don't have a name yet, so we're open for name ideas.
Huh. I vote Prince Tybee.
And he's so fun. He just swims and plays and tosses things around. It's so fun to watch him. So we're always like, oh, the otter's back. We always rush over the window and watch. We haven't tried to like get close to it, but we enjoy watching him from afar in our pond.
As you should. Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous. All I get to see is like, I don't know, my dog pooping in the yard. Like that's really the amount of interaction I get with the outside world. You get otters.
Yes, we have a lot of animals in our yard, but okay, off subject. Enough about me. I don't want to make you more jealous with all the things we have. But I do love this idea of thinking about the things that God delights in and finding those gifts, like finding those blessings, those things in our life that we can see. How can you get better at that? Like how can you change that perspective if that's something you struggle with? We'll be right back after this. You know, raising kids in the digital age isn't easy, but Bark Technology makes products that help parents keep their kids safe online and in real life. They have an app, a phone, and a home device that lets families set parental controls on their internet-connected devices. I love the app because it helps us manage screen time and blocks websites and apps we want our kids to avoid. It also sends alerts and gives us the ability to monitor texts and social media and even track your child's location. Visit bark.us to learn more about how you can keep your kids safe online. Use the code COLLIDEKIDS to get 15% off your subscription of the Bark app.
I think for me, joy has always felt, so you got the fruits of the spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kind of blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And joy has always felt like a weird one because it's just like, well, I understand love and I understand patience. I just need to like not want everything now all the time. I understand like there's things where it's like I can apply this. I can do this somewhat easily. So then when you come to joy, it's like, well, how? And I think I've always assumed joy is supposed to be super connected to basically just me being happy that I am saved by God.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is all that joy is, which I think that's part of it. Like that's a huge part of it. The joy of salvation, like that's a thing. But I also think that like the joy of salvation and the joy that the Bible talks about a lot is ridiculously connected to just everyday life. I don't think it's a separate thing. I think joy is a piece of Hawaiian pizza. And I think there's verses in Ecclesiastes specifically that talk about like the gifts of God and God keeping us occupied with the joy in our heart. And I think if we just like eat some pizza and we're like, all right, cool, that was pizza, and then move on and just kind of go about our day without thinking about the fact that like this pizza is a really good thing and we like it can keep us occupied with the joy if we just let it be a thing that gives us joy instead of just moving on. So I think really paying attention to good things and the things that are gifts, and specifically saying like, this is a gift from God. This really good thing that I love, this really good movie, this really good, I don't know, like I love candy. This really good piece of candy. Like this isn't just me finding candy in my pocket. I don't know where it came from. This is a gift. And letting that count as joy. I think that's the biggest challenge, is just like letting it count as something that matters to our faith.
I think that's good. And I think it's so important that we approach any situation with gratitude and knowing that everything that we have that's good in our life is from God. That's what the Bible says too. Like every good gift that we have is from the Lord. And so when we change our perspective, like you're saying, the little things really add up. I don't know about you, but something that I've always struggled with, and I think a lot of kids and adults seem to struggle with now, is comparison. We look at the things that other people have, and we miss out on the things that we are blessed with. Like I have otters and you don't, and that's a thing. No, I'm just kidding. But so you can feel convicted.
How many times can you bring this back up?
But
it's fine.
But I think it's true. Like we compare ourselves so much that we miss out on what we actually have and what we wish we could have, instead of focusing on the joys that we have, like pizza and the joys of making new friends and things like that. We miss out when we're comparing instead of looking for what God's given us.
Yeah. And it's really easy to, I think, to separate our lives from, for the lack of a better word, a spiritual life, because we spend so much time talking about like the spiritual practices, which, prayer, the Bible, these very core things that do make up our lives as people who love Jesus. But then you got all the other stuff, right? Like you've got like, well, I have to go to school, and like I have to work. I have to do all of these other things. It's not that God doesn't have a part of those, but they don't give me anything for my faith. So I think to be able to combine pizza with faith, it's funny, but I think it's true. I think those things are not separate things. I think good pizza has a lot to say about how we approach the world and how we approach God and how we live our lives. I think they're intensely connected.
Yes. Speaking of pizza, what is your favorite kind of pizza?
Hawaiian. It's a national treasure, and I will die on this hill.
I mean, let's be honest. If it's pizza, I like it. There's not a kind that I don't like, but I love Hawaiian pizza. That's so good.
Pineapple on pizza, solid. I just think
Yes.
it was a good call. Whoever made it, I don't know who made it. I
Maybe
don't
the
know if it was
Hawaiians.
somebody. Yeah, I was about to say, I don't know if it was somebody from Hawaii, but if it was, thank you for your
Yes, we
contribution.
thank the Italians and the Hawaiians for their contribution because it's delicious. That's awesome. Well, I think one of the things that I have learned recently about gifts, about the fruit of the spirit, like you mentioned before, love, joy, peace, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Is that all of them? I feel like
I
I
think
missed one.
so.
I always feel like I
I
miss
don't do
one.
math, so
I have to do the song by Uncle Charlie. I don't know if you know that song. I have to
I
do the
don't know
song.
that one.
Okay, I'll send it to you later and then you'll be able to memorize it like me. But I always think about that like it was something I had to do. Like I have to be patient or I have to be joyful
Mm.
or I have to be.
Mhm.
But if it's the fruit of the spirit, that means it's a result, not something we pursue, right? And so when we are focusing our attention on loving God, being in a close relationship with him, loving other people because of that relationship we have with God, it makes us love other people. And then the result is, wow, I'm being really patient today, or wow, I had a lot of self-control today. And so it's a
Yeah.
result. These things are results of
The
our
fruits.
pursuit. Yeah, they're fruits.
Imagine that.
That's right. And so I
Yeah.
love that we can turn those little things,
Some
like
might
you
say
said.
they're even pineapples.
There might be a couple that are considered pineapples. I think
Yeah.
that lines up. I think that's right.
You can't put the fruit of the spirit on a pizza. Maybe.
I
I
don't
don't know. I've
know.
never tried. So
Maybe.
I can't say that 100%. Well said thoughts about the fruit
I
of the
think
spirit.
that should be your next book is something about pizza and the fruit of the spirit. How about that?
I'm just gonna write that
Write
down.
that down. I'll write the foreword for you.
Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, like the if you do think about it, I think it's really I think I get used to saying fruit of the spirit. And then when I think about the actual analogy, we're trees and we're dependent upon the Holy Spirit to make these things as results, then we're just like kind of hanging out as trees.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we continue to dive into what does it mean to be loved by God, how do we love others, and what does it mean to like have what Jesus did matter, and
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean for me in my daily life, then suddenly fruit will appear.
That's right. Yeah.
And it is a result. And I've not actually thought about the fact that like I've not like boiled it down to the idea of us being trees and the fruit being something that comes over time as you get to know God. That's really good. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Write that down along with the fruit of the spirit on pizza.
Good idea. Good idea. Tell us a little bit about what you love about writing, like what you love about the writing process, writing a book, putting it together. What's your favorite thing about it?
I don't like writing the first draft. The first drafts are always the hardest thing for me. What I do like writing is everything that comes after, basically. And I like the research part too. So I like thinking about stories and finding all these little tidbits of, ooh, this would be cool part for the world. This would be a cool part for the world. So I think just like being able to build just like a story and being able to build a world for the story and to get to know new characters, like that's all. It's just like a lot of fun, especially like a good example is Kiki coming up with Prince Tybee and his pirate ship, the Snagglehorn. Like it's just fun.
That
It's
is
just fun.
fun.
Yes, it's fun stuff. And I like that I get to do that and that I get to just be silly and exercise that part of joy in creating new places and new worlds.
That's
I would say,
very cool.
yeah, that's the most exciting part of it.
That's awesome. So, where can our listeners find your books? Because these sound like so much fun. So, where can they find them?
They are hopefully wherever books are sold, but I've found them in Barnes and Noble. I've found them. They're obviously on Amazon. I've found them in local bookstores. If you have a local bookstore, go buy it from a local bookstore. They would love that. And Barnes and Noble online, they have an online store. You can get them maybe through your library. I have not tried that for any of my books on picture books. I know that libraries have my young adult, but I don't know about picture books.
Oh, okay.
So
Something to look for. Yeah, that's good. And then do you have a website?
I do, daveconnis.com. And then the place that I hang out mostly on all of the social medias is Instagram. So you can find me there. My handle is dconnis. So
Okay, that's awesome. Well, this has been so fun getting to know you and talking with you today. Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing a little bit about your books and your writing experience.
yeah, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. I like that I get to like read about jokes and talk about pizza. And I mean, what a life. What a time to be alive.
Well, that's right. Hey, before I let you go, I always like to ask my guests to share a memory from when they were a kid. So do you have a memory you want to share with us today?
Yes. So I will talk about the time I destroyed my dad's first laptop. I want to say 8, maybe 9. And this is going to make me sound really old, but laptops had just started becoming a thing. And my dad got one and he did a lot of work on it. Because at the time, like that's what you did on laptops. There was no fun things. It was just like for work and calendars and emails. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a book on this laptop. And I went and got a glass of chocolate milk and I put it next to my dad's laptop.
Oh, no.
And I was writing a chapter of what was going to be my masterpiece. We will never know now because it's dead. And my hand hit the glass of chocolate milk and it went all down in the laptop keyboard. And you could smell the chips inside, literally frying.
Oh,
And
no.
I don't know if this is just my memory, but I feel like there was smoke coming out of the center. And I was like, oh no. And I just closed it and I left it there.
That's the way to do it.
Thinking, my dad probably won't notice. Well, sure enough, he came to me and was like, why does my computer smell like chocolate milk? And it's like, well, that's a good question. That's a good question. Why does it, Dad? But why would it? I don't know. So anyway, that's a memory. And I lost that book and I've never been able to. I don't even remember what it was about. I think it was about jet skis.
Oh,
Yep.
man. I hate that we missed out on that.
Yep. Could have been a bestseller.
And all the good things your dad also had on his own laptop that were lost as well.
That's fair. I've only ever thought about my manuscript. I've never thought about what my dad lost.
It was probably just bills and stuff like that.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Like important business things. Yeah, because at the time there was no like backups. Like you didn't like there was no cloud because so you just like put it on a floppy disk. All the kids are gonna be like, what words are you saying?
Floppy disk.
Why would a disk be floppy?
Do you ever get nervous around chocolate milk now?
I do. I actually over the summer had a glass of chocolate milk and I was working on my laptop computer and I had a moment where I was like, wait. I need to not do this. And I moved my glass as far away from me as possible.
Nice.
And I would take sips of it by standing up and walking across the room. So I still have some things that I need
trauma. Yeah,
some trauma I need to get through about glass.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you again for being on the show. This was so much fun.
Yes, this was a lot of fun. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm pretty sure that we just helped Dave write a new book about the fruit of the Spirit. Wow. Do we get credit for that? I don't know. I love talking with Dave today. That was so much fun. I love talking with him about joy and imagination and creativity. I love when he was sharing about how God gives us gifts, things that we're good at, and he delights when we use our gifts and when we appreciate the world around us. Appreciating things like Hawaiian pizza or finding candy in your pocket or being with our friends and those little things, recognizing that God gives us good gifts just so that we can experience joy. I highly recommend you check out his book, The Stories of God and Kiki, wherever you get books, and let him know if you find his stuff at the library. I think that'd be pretty cool. He is on Instagram at dconnis, or you can find him on his website at daveconnis.com. And if you'd like to hear the Fruit of the Spirit song, That is by Uncle Charlie, and you can head over to YouTube and just search Uncle Charlie, Fruit of the Spirit. It's a great song. It's going to get stuck in your head, but you're going to be able to memorize all the fruit of the Spirit. It's a good one. Well, now it's time for the kids only segment. This is the part of the show where you get to be on the podcast. You know, last week we had Juliet, and now we get to meet her sister. This is Maggie Jane. Check it out.
Hi, I'm Maggie Jane. Here's my joke. What do you call an alligator with a vest on? An investigator.
An investigator. I love that joke. And I'm laughing just picturing an alligator with a vest on. That's so funny. Thank you so much, Maggie Jane, for sharing that with us. Hey, if you would like to be on the podcast just like Maggie Jane was and share your favorite joke or your favorite quote or your favorite Bible verse, I'd love to hear from you. Just go to my website, collidekidspodcast.com, and click the tab that says Kids Only, or you can find information about how to send it to me through my social media. I'm on Facebook at the Collide Kids Podcast or on Instagram at Collide Kids Pod. Well, as we mentioned before at the beginning of the episode, there's lots of ways that you can support the podcast. And these little gifts of support might give you a gift. So be sure to leave a rating and review, especially on Apple Podcasts, or go to my social media and just follow and support and share it and tag us whenever you share the information, and you could be part of the giveaway. You could also go to my website and click the link that says support, where you can buy me a coffee. It's not really buying me a coffee, it's just a little bit of financial support. And anytime you think about it, I always appreciate your prayer support as well. Well, I hope you guys have an amazing week. I really appreciate that you listened today. I'm so glad you're here, and I can't believe we're almost about to hit 100 episodes. So stick around. We've got some exciting things coming. In case no one has told you today, I would love to be the first to remind you that God loves you so much. Thanks for listening.
You don't have to go very far looking for bad news because somehow it just finds you. So finding peace in the chaos can be really difficult, but it doesn't have to be because the River mobile app exists. The River is a Christian music radio station dedicated to playing music to help you get through life's toughest moments or life's happiest moments and everywhere in between. And all from artists who love Jesus and are real people just like you. Listening is easy. You can download it wherever you get apps from. Just search 1049 The River or listen online at riverradio.com. And know that The River is proud to partner with the Collide Kids podcast.